Hello, and welcome to the North Hills Roadshow. In this program, you will have the opportunity to view a sampling of vintage photos that show how several northern Allegheny County roadways evolved over the course of the last century. As automobiles became more affordable and popular in the early 20th century, the public demanded better roads. Most roads were rutted and often deep in mud, as was this street in Westview. This was Duncan Avenue in 1918. This 1919 image of Thompson Run Road shows one of the many derricks that once dotted the countryside. These are two of the roads in what later became North Park. This was once the Bradford Road and Wexford Run Road intersection in Bradford Woods. Originally known as the Ingomar Road Extension, this part of Highland Road was built over the early Native American Venango Path that once connected the forks of the Ohio with Lake Erie. It was in this valley near the Sloop and Highland Road intersection that the Kushkushki Path split from the Venango Path, while the Venango Path continued northward through Warrendale to Erie by way of Franklin, Pennsylvania. The Kushkushki Path led northwest through Cranberry Township to Newcastle, Pennsylvania. The trestle carried Harmony Line rail cars over Sloop Road. Highland, Brant School, and Mingo roads were built over the Kushkushki Path, a state historical marker recognizing the path's role in the French and Indian War and its importance in opening the area to settlement, was erected on Brant School Road next to Trinity Lutheran, which began as a log church on the side of the path. This is Brant School Road in 1930, before improvements were made. Trinity Lutheran Cemetery is on the left, and the old parsonage is on the right. The one-room Brant School, which is now a private residence, is seen in the center of the photo. Throughout the 1800s, road building was left to local municipalities and the state. But in 1895, a new state law required counties to budget for road improvements. By the 1920s, Allegheny County was receiving so many requests for road improvements that the county commissioners adopted the motto, "Public improvements promote progress," and began building infrastructure throughout the county. Voters twice approved bond issues that raised millions of dollars for road, bridge, and tunnel construction, as well as for building the county airport, county office building, and north and south parks. This photo of the Warrendale Bain Road extension in Marshall Township reflects changes that took place during the 1920s and 30s. A woman is shown hanging laundry on a clothesline outside a log house and barn next to a modern concrete roadway. At the time, many rural homes still relied on oil or gas lighting. The Ohio River, Allegheny River, Moss Side, and Sawmill Run boulevards were built to bring people into the city from the surrounding countryside. The boulevards were like spokes in a wheel, connected by secondary roads. This 1925 photo shows the Butler Plank Road, also known as Route 8, being bricked. In 1930, the original section of Ohio River Boulevard was built between Marshall Avenue on the north side and Camp Horn Road in Emsworth. This photo shows construction activity above Woods Run. Western Penitentiary is on the far right. The Mckees Rocks Bridge was built at the same time as the boulevard. At 1.5 miles, it's the longest bridge in Allegheny County. Before then, Ferries were used to connect Mckees rocks with the rest of the city. In 1909, 24 men lost their lives when a ferry sank as they were returning home at the end of a workday. Following the accident, officials were pressured to build a bridge. The men's names are inscribed on a plaque attached to the Mckees Rocks Bridge. The bridge was dedicated in August 1931. The photo looks north towards Bellevue. Notice the traffic circle. Had it not rained that day, the crowd would have been even larger. In addition to the usual speeches, there was a flyover and a 2,000-car parade. Cars traveled across the bridge and the length of the boulevard, sometimes 4 abreast, with 10 bands stationed along the route. Because it was meant to be a high-speed, limited-access highway, the boulevard was built on the edge of the bluffs overlooking the Ohio River. This eliminated cross streets that would have slowed traffic. 10 bridges were built to carry the new boulevard over ravines. This is the Fremont Avenue Bridge being built. Men are also shown bricking the boulevard as a pass-through Ben Avon. The original boulevard ended at Camp Horn Road in Emsworth, but was later extended to the county line in Leetsdale. This was the Camp Horn Road intersection during the 1936 St. Patrick's Day flood. Notice that the boat belonged to the nearby Dixmont Hospital. Before Mcknight Road and Interstate 279 were built, Ohio River Boulevard and Camp Horn Road were important routes into the city for North Hills residents. Camp Horn and the connecting Rochester-Lowry's Run Road to Perry Highway were both paved in 1925. The new road provided easy access to Camp Horn, a summer overnight camp for Horn's department store employees. It is now Acord Park. The camp started in 1907 when older store employees raised money to buy the land and build a summer camp to benefit younger employees, some of whom were as young as 10. After working for 6 months, young people were entitled to a free week at the camp, where there was a swimming pool, dining hall, ball fields, and various recreational activities. There were also electric streetlights. Some employees moved their families to the camp for the summer, commuting by bus to the store each day. The annual employee picnic attracted thousands. At one time, there were 7 trailer parks along Camp Horn Road. In July 1950, a heavy rainstorm north of Pittsburgh caused flash flooding. Ward's Park, which stood behind what is now the Willow Restaurant, was especially hard hit. Within minutes, Lowry's Run rose 15 feet, and Bill Ward, the park's owner, was swept away while rescuing tenants. 100 people were left homeless. Camp Horn Drive-In Movie Theater operated from 1953 until 1987 on the hillside now occupied by Giant Eagle and Home Depot. A large bend at the top of Rochester-Lowry's Run Road was removed during the 1925 rebuilding. In 1931, Rochester Road was extended across Perry Highway to connect with Babcock Boulevard. This was the valley facing east toward the 6th and Glenmore Avenues intersection before Rochester Road was built. The photo was taken from the hillside below North Hills High School. Duncan Avenue, Babcock Boulevard, Big Swickley Creek, Nicholson, Camp Horn, Wexford Bain, Warrendale Bain, Bradford, Brant School, Inglemoor, Highland, Mcknight, and Thompson Run roads, along with Perry Highway and all of the roads in North Park, are just some of the many roads built by Allegheny County during the 1920s and 30s. This is a 1926 view of Wexford Bain Road, also known as Route 910, at the Rochester Road intersection before it was realigned and paved. The road connects Perry Highway in Wexford with Rochester Road in the Bain section of Franklin Park, thus the name Wexford Bain. Bain was the name of the post office that once stood opposite this intersection. Wexford Bain is part of the Orange Belt that connects Route 28 with the Ohio River Boulevard. A familiar Wexford Bain landmark is the former Stone Mansion restaurant, which is the Shell House family's newest funeral home. The house dates from 1935, when it was built by then Allegheny County Controller Robert Woodside. The U-shaped house was built with a nod to the stone cottages of Woodside's Irish ancestors. Robert Woodside was a remarkable individual. He was an attorney, Allegheny County Sheriff, County Controller, and decorated war veteran who in 1914 helped create the Veterans of Foreign Wars organization. As the VFW's national commander, he spoke at the dedication of the Tomb of the Unknown in Arlington National Cemetery. He also co-chaired the American Battle Monuments Commission that established our overseas military cemeteries. President Eisenhower awarded General Woodside the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1954. In 2014, in honor of the VFW's 100th anniversary, roadside and sidewalk markers were erected at the Stone Mansion to commemorate Robert Woodside. Stone Mansion's walnut and mahogany woodwork, stained glass, and decorative mantels were salvaged from Pittsburgh mansions slated for demolition. At the time Stone Mansion was built in the mid-1930s, Woodside traveled to Europe on behalf of the Battle Monuments Commission, giving him an opportunity to purchase architectural features for the new house, including the 20-foot pink sandstone fireplace. The entry hall's intricate stained glass panel may possibly represent a family history. In the design, 1594 appears wrapped in a tree in the top center pane. Stone Mansion remained a private residence until the first of 3 restaurants opened there in 1990. Another longtime landmark was Carmody's. Joe and Ethel Carmody had been operating a tavern in Westview before purchasing this small convenience store at the corner of Wexford Bain and Nicholson Roads. They converted the store into a tavern that opened in 1952 and was where locals came to pitch horseshoes and enjoy live music. In 1969, the tavern stood in the path of a widened Wexford Bain Road. In order to keep their liquor license, the Carmodys moved the building. It was hoisted onto rollers and moved around the corner to where it faced Nicholson Road. It remained a popular neighborhood bar and restaurant until closing a few years ago. The clump of trees in the center right of this 1926 photo shows the original sorghum orchards along Wexford Bain Road. This was how the road appeared before being realigned and paved the same year. Warren and Jean Sorgel built their first fruit stand in 1962. Until then, they had only sold wholesale, but a late freeze destroyed most of that year's crop. So the decision was made to sell the remaining apples from a stand at the corner of Brant School and Wexford Bain Roads. This was Wexford Bain, as it appeared from Wexford Run Road. The High Point subdivision now sits on the right. In 1920, a wood and canvas Martin bomber on a test flight out of Cleveland, Ohio, developed engine trouble and landed on this hilltop. Bertie Steele told how she and others at the branch school knew there was a problem when they heard the plane's failing engine. Jumping from their seats, they chased after the plane, following it over the hills to where it landed in a field near Chanot's farm. The three-man crew boarded with local families while attempting to make necessary repairs. Unable to be repaired, the plane was dismantled and hauled through Wexford to be returned to the factory by train. This reproduction Martin bomber is on display at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Another longtime family farm was Altmeyer's. Their market once stood on Wexford Bain opposite Cole Road. The barn and adjacent acreage is now Marshall Township's newest park. This 1926 photo shows the Harmony Line's Wexford Station on Wexford Bain at what is now Brennan Road. After the railroad ceased operating in 1931, the station was moved to the corner of Wexford Bain and Perry Highway, where it served as a post office for many years. Most recently, the building housed the Wexford Post Office Deli. Next to the station was a stable where travelers could rent a horse and buggy. On the hillside behind the station was Brooker's Grove, which was a dance hall and picnic pavilion that hosted large groups. Picnickers would arrive on the trolley to spend a day at the Grove. The former Wexford station was recently moved to the Trolley Museum in Washington, Pennsylvania, where it has been restored. Russell Boggs and his brother-in-law, Henry Buell, owned the Boggs and Buell department store on Pittsburgh's North Side. Boggs built the Harmony Line to bring customers from the surrounding countryside into the city. It should be noted that Boggs also owned the North Pittsburgh Real Estate Company that sold property in the new North Hills communities that lined the trolley tracks. From 1908 to 1931, the Harmony Line operated electric rail cars between Pittsburgh, Butler, Newcastle, and Elwood City, opening the North Hills to residential development. Families could now live in the open spaces and clean air of the countryside while still being able to commute to jobs and stores in the city. Ingomar and Bradford Woods are two communities that grew next to Harmony Line stations. Bradford Woods and Warrendale each had a station. The Ingomar Station and Brunn's General Store once sat at the intersection of Harmony Drive and West Ingomar Road in McCandless Township. Philip Brunn operated the store while also serving as station master. Unfortunately, accidents involving automobiles, livestock, and rail cars were fairly common. At least 2 fatalities occurred at the Ingomar crossing when automobiles were struck by trolleys. In 1931, 2 teenage boys placed rocks on the track between the Ingomar station and Pine Creek, causing a car to jump the track and nearly split apart while knocking down several electric poles. Over 50 students were on the train that day, returning home from the Perry High School, but fortunately there were no serious injuries. Because the Harmony Line supplied electricity to communities along the route, Ingomar went dark until power could be restored. In Franklin Township, homes as far as Rochester Road received power from the railway. The original Wexford Bain Road ended at Perry Highway, next to Cole's Hotel. During the 1926 improvements, the road was shifted further north, where it has remained. This vintage postcard shows a south-facing view of Wexford from the St. Alphonsus hilltop. Cole's Hotel is seen on the right, and the general store that is now an antique center is on the left. This part of Pine Township was originally known as Schaefer's Corners. This 1919 view shows the original Perry Highway as it ran north through the village of Wexford. Cole's Hotel and Stable are on the left, and the general store is on the right. The building in the center housed the magistrate's office and the telephone exchange. The St. Alphonsus Church steeple is also visible. In time, Perry Highway was realigned and modernized. This original section of highway through Wexford was renamed Church Road. The third St. Alphonsus Church building and its school, which is the white building on the far right, were both built in 1889. During the earliest years, Father John Newman traveled from Pittsburgh to Wexford to say Mass. He was canonized in 1977, and Franklin Park's first Catholic church was named in his honor. An important early road leading from the city into the North Hills was East Street. This is an 1870s view of the East Street Valley looking north. The valley was a working-class neighborhood in Allegheny City, where factories, stores, and homes mixed together. Most factories were related to the nearby stockyards and included slaughterhouses, tanneries, soap and glue factories. H.J. Heinz built his factory here. There were also 2 stone quarries in the valley. Rising in Ross Township, Butcher's Run flowed the length of the valley into the Allegheny River. In 1874, a flash flood swept through the lower valley, causing 124 deaths and mass destruction. East Street was once a plank road with toll gates that Allegheny City began improving in 1899. Allegheny City was annexed by Pittsburgh in 1907 and is now known as Pittsburgh's North Side. Businesses and homes mixed together in this working-class neighborhood. Much of the East Street Valley was still rural. This was East Street as it climbed towards Perry Hilltop. As East Street began its ascent to Perry Hilltop, Evergreen Road continued north through the valley towards Ross Township. The row of houses across the top of this photo were on Ivory Avenue. To the left were ice ponds and a road that led to Nelson Run. This area is now buried under Interstate 279. This is a 1967 view of the valley looking south toward Pittsburgh. The landmark St. Boniface Church was built in 1926 and can be seen in the top half of the photo. Allegheny County started building Mcknight Road in 1939. The 4-lane divided highway was intended to create access into the North Hills and make travel to and from North Park easier for city residents. The 3-mile section between Babcock Boulevard at Gertie's Run in Ross and Babcock Boulevard in McCandless was completed by the end of 1940. This was a Public Works Administration project, meaning the federal government paid for labor and the county paid for materials. Much of North Park was built with the same arrangement. This photo shows the Babcock and Mcknight intersection in McCandless under construction. The wooded area on the left is where Northway Mall was later built. The Schwartz Brothers barn, from where the Biddle brothers stole the horse and sleigh used in their famous 1902 prison escape, is seen on the old 3-degree road. This was also the location of the first Mcknight post office. What is now a Mcknight Road off-ramp was originally laid out in the 1820s as part of the State Road to Butler. Once known as 3 Degree Road and Evergreen Road, it was renamed Babcock Boulevard in 1927. This was the newly built Mcknight Road looking north from the same intersection. Peebles Road is on the right. In 1902, a group of nuns arrived in the town of Braddock to serve the Slovak community. In 1915, they moved north, dedicating a new mother house on the old 3 Degree Road in Mckees Township. In 1924, the order opened the Vincentian Home for Incurables to house and care for destitute women who were seriously ill. 2 years later, a men's cottage opened. The Vincentian sisters have now been in Mckees for over 100 years. Construction of the southern section of Mcknight Road between Gertie's Run and the north side started in 1941. Steep hillsides made work difficult. Despite wartime shortages, the project was given priority since it was considered an evacuation route out of the city. By 1943, manpower shortages became so critical that work had to stop. Ivory Avenue residents were left with a pit 30 feet deep and 100 feet wide where their street had been. Work resumed in June 1945 and was completed the following year, allowing for high-speed travel between the north side and Mckees, a distance of 5 miles. This view from the Ivory Avenue Bridge shows Mcknight Road flowing into the East Street Valley. Once Mcknight Road opened, the population of the North Hills exploded. The baby boom caused a growing demand for housing, stores, schools, and services. In the early 1950s, Ross property owners appealed the county's stipulation that Mcknight remain a limited access highway and won the right to make curb cuts, bringing about the beginning of the Mcknight Road Business District and an end to high-speed travel. The first shopping center opened at the end of 1953. It was the 16-store Mcknight Shopping Center on the Mckees-Ross line. It featured an A&P grocery store and Woolworth's first self-serve 5 and dime. Other centers soon followed. North Hills Village opened in 1956, followed by Mcknight-Siebert. Subdivisions and commercial development soon replaced farmland, as seen in this photo. The Mcknight Shopping Center is in the center of the photo. Notice the building in the lower right corner. This was the former Pickering estate that was purchased by the county in 1925 and converted into the Gumbert Industrial School for Girls. Today, the Minnie Cain Hospital and McIntyre Square stand on the property. In 1962, Mcknight Shopping Center was transformed into the Northway Mall, Pennsylvania's first enclosed shopping mall. The mall was billed as a traffic-free island oasis featuring tropical plants and a small aviary. Horne's department store was the mall's anchor tenant. In 1953, Mcknight Road was extended to Perry Highway at Pine Creek in Mckees Township. Mcknight now connected the new Pennsylvania Turnpike in Cranberry Township, Butler County, with downtown Pittsburgh. While the rest of Mcknight Road had been built by Allegheny County, the new section was built by PennDOT. However, the county received permission to build the Ingomar Road Cloverleaf for easy access into North Park. This 1920s photo shows where the Cloverleaf was later built. Ingomar Road is in the foreground. Hickory Hills apartments were later built on the hill in the upper right corner. Allegheny County transferred its portion of Mcknight Road to PennDOT in 1961. The Netsuke tank farm once stood at the corner of Mcknight and Ingomar Roads. National Transit, a Standard Oil subsidiary, operated the tank farm from 1889 until 1977. There were 8 25-foot tall storage tanks on the site. Oil was pumped from Ohio and northwestern Pennsylvania before being pumped to the East Coast refineries by way of Warren, Pennsylvania. In July 1929, lightning struck one of the tanks. It collapsed, spewing burning oil into Pine Creek. Neighbors helped dig a firewall to contain the burning oil, while 200 firefighters hosed the other tanks to prevent them from burning. The fire burned for 26 hours before being doused by a chemical team brought in from Oil City. This was not the first time disaster struck the site. In 1919, another tank burned as the result of a lightning strike. This is a 1926 view of Stitzer's Corner at Evergreen Road and People's Plank Road. The old Evergreen Hotel is seen behind the trees, with the failed 19th century utopian co-op of Evergreen Hamlet perched on the hilltop overlooking Gertie's Run. It has been written that an early version of the Venango Path once began on the Allegheny River, following Gertie's Run northward through the North Hills. This would have been a logical route, as the Native American settlement of Shannapinstown was situated on the opposite side of the river at 2 Mile Run, in what is now Pittsburgh's Lawrenceville neighborhood. Eventually, the path shifted to what we now know as Federal Street on Pittsburgh's north side. Together with Jack's Run, Gertie's Run had ties to the Underground Railroad in the years leading to the Civil War. Pittsburgh and western Pennsylvania actively helped escaping slaves. Some who reached the Ohio River were known to come ashore at Jack's Run, shown in these turn-of-the-century photos after construction of the California Avenue High Bridge. Following Jack's Run to the headwaters of Gertie's Run in the valley below Cemetery Lane, individuals followed Gertie's Run to Bennett's Station, now known as Millville. Upon arrival, men, women, and children were usually transported by wagon to Bakerstown, from where they were led northward into Canada. In 1926-27, the Ross Township section of Evergreen Road between Stitzer's Corner and Kuhn Station on the 3-degree road was realigned and improved. It was designed to eliminate 29 curves and shorten the distance to Kuhn Station, a freight and passenger station on the Harmony Line. This is the old Evergreen Road looking toward Thompson Run Road. The new road was promoted as a connection between Pittsburgh's East End and Sewickley. Motorists would be able to cross the 40th Street Bridge into Millville and take the new Evergreen Boulevard to avoid downtown traffic. The new Evergreen Boulevard and Thompson Run Road intersection featured a blinker light. The Charlotte Garden Roadhouse is seen in the distance. Notice the dark strip down the middle of the road. A 6-foot wide strip of asphalt was flanked by 2 9-foot wide concrete strips, making a 3-lane road with a center turning lane. County Commissioner Babcock had seen this technique used in New York and was convinced it should be tried here in Allegheny County. This was the original Evergreen Road, looking toward Siebert Road. The cluster of utility poles in the upper left corner mark the Harmony Line tracks and Evergreen's stop. The path across the center of the photo connected the tracks to the road. The new Evergreen Boulevard was built between the Harmony Line tracks and the original Evergreen Road. The new boulevard was built on the valley floor, while the original road hugged the hillside. The old Melwood Church building is seen in the upper right corner. The original Evergreen Road is shown merging with the new boulevard at 3 Degree Road with Harmony Line tracks on the far right. Evergreen met 3 Degree Road at the Keene Station. The brick building on the left originally housed generators used to power the trolleys. This was the Keene Freight and Passenger Station. Northway Car Wash now occupies the site. A trolley passes two women as they paint guardrails just days before the new boulevard was officially opened. This garage was once a longtime landmark at the same intersection where traffic was controlled with a blinker light. Evergreen Boulevard was officially dedicated in August 1927. An automobile parade was held from Stitzer's Corner to Keene Station. At the ceremony, a petition was presented to county officials asking that the new road be renamed in honor of County Commissioner E.V. Babcock. The new Evergreen Boulevard between Millvale and Keene Station, along with all of 3 Degree Road from Keene through North Park to the Butler County line at Valencia, was quickly renamed Babcock Boulevard. For Northland Public Library, this is Debbie Raybold. Thank you for viewing the North Hills Roadshow. For more vintage photos and North Hills history, please visit www.northlandlocalhistory.org.